Good morning. Hello.
Good
It's
morning.
episode 132, and I've called it Unpacking this week because we have two special guests. We have Lotte from the Umbraco Packages Team and Paul of Umbraco YouTube fame. Hey,
hello.
how you doing?
All right.
So excited to be here with a famous YouTuber.
Yeah, I know. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit, but for everyone that doesn't know Paul has a relatively successful YouTube channel where you do videos and tutorials, and you also have a blog. Great resource for Umbraco knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, mainly Umbraco. Yeah,
Mainly.
not exclusively.
No, and you started out as, am I right? I think we had a chat at UK Fest. You started out doing kind of like front-end JavaScript or jQuery type tutorials, so how to achieve.
Yeah, just anything really. Anything that I thought someone else might find useful, I just used to stick it on there, and people used to find it instead of finding it from what's that famous one? Stack Overflow. Instead of there, they get mine. Yeah.
Rage Overflow, as it's known.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. And as I said, we'll be having a little chat about that as the episode goes on. But shall we dive into some news? Because this week we saw some updates from the package team. Lotte, isn't that right?
Yes, the package team Twitter account has been busy this week. We had we have a new release of Unpack out, which I don't know if you're going to be mentioning that vendor, the package vendor was updated yesterday.
Yes.
Unfortunately, just before the release of Unpack had been released. But if we'd have got it out earlier, then Matt says everything that he needed to do on Hour to update vendor as part of this release, he could have done via Unpack. So the extras that have been added in are that when you say the version that you are sending over to Hour is the current one, it will update that to be the current one on Hour, and also enable you to say, I want to flag these files as archived. So it will archive the one archive files that you no longer want to appear and set the one as current. So basically you can do your whole build process to Hour without going onto the Hour website, which is a exciting achievement, I think.
Yeah, this is something that's been missing for a rather long time, I think, from the Umbraco package ecosystem. There's been, attempts, I think, at kind of hacking something together before. I recall Nathan Wolf saying he had a process that kind of scraped Hour and worked out how to upload a package.
Oh, wow. Okay.
People have done some crazy stuff in the past. But of course, now you've standardized this, and this is great. And you're on version 0.9 already?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the numbers, to be honest. I don't get involved in that. I just think we heard a lot of people saying that the lack of being able to put it in a build process meant they weren't going to bother posting packages to Hour.
Yeah.
And so this is now, well, you can't say that anymore, because here's a tool that will enable you to do that. And for people who are, especially the commercial package developers, who you want them to be able to release fixes as soon as possible and new releases, now it's just part of a build process. And so Hour and NuGet can stay in sync, and everyone who gets their packages via Hour and the back office will be happy.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. And I know, Paul, you've done a bunch of packages in the past.
Yeah.
I've not actually integrated Unpack into my processes yet, but I need to. Have you had a play?
I haven't yet. I've not done any packages really since this was all coming out, but I think there are a couple of packages I need to do, like bring over to V8, like the smaller images package I did and things like that. Maybe Pronto, the dashboard one. So yeah, I might have a look at doing that. Start with the simple package that's not got too much in it and see what the process is like.
Yeah, that sounds sensible. Lotte, so I saw something else tweeted this week, which is this
a teaser
tool. Now, are you able to share what this is? If from what I'm seeing, it will spin up templates of Umbraco packages and a Visual Studio solution?
Yeah, it's basically from the command prompt, you type .NET new umbraco-v8 package, I can read, and then the name of the template that you want to use. And then a few seconds later, you have a compiling working version in Visual Studio with whatever options you want and whatever options get built in. It's early days for this. Kevin Jump's been doing a lot of investigation as to what the tooling is like now for using templates, because I don't know if you've used templates in Visual Studio in the past. I've done it years ago, and it was not an easy thing to kind of keep up to date. It was you ended up having to put them somewhere funny, and it just didn't feel like it was part of your project. Whereas this now, with the .NET new tool option, it does just feel like a simple thing for you to start with and then take on your own journey. But it's early days. But
this, as you say, was teased.
Yeah,
and actually, I noticed. I think before this tweet, the repo appeared for package template. Yeah. I assume this drives that.
Yes, exactly. And I do know that some people, I think they are subscribed to Umbraco on GitHub, so you can't add a new public repository without a few people getting an email. So yeah, basically it started life in Kevin's repository, and now it's moved over because we're kind of now at the point of wanting to start to share it to people. And here, because you could do anything with templates, but you know what's going to be the most useful thing that people want to see there. There's the item template that's there at the moment is for creating a dashboard. So via command prompt, say that you want a dashboard, and then you have a suggested Visual Studio setup for a dashboard package. And you know, where do we go now? That's the question.
Well,
but
you say where do we go? So I noticed just poking around that repo that there is an Umbraco package and an Umbraco site example in there. So potentially this repo could become like the place to store templates for almost anything. You know, you could say new Umbraco property editor, or new like almost more specific stuff, or Umbraco V8 site with a specific version. It's cool. It's definitely more powerful. And as .NET Core comes around, so the .NET Core version of Umbraco is going to have to use .NET New for a lot of stuff, because all of the tooling that was in Visual Studio that was designed for the installer with .NET Framework doesn't work with Core. So there's going to be some changes.
Yeah, so I think because I think some people may have mistook Unpack as like help you get started building packages. It's not. It's to help you deploy your package to hour, whereas this is very much focused on, I'm a new package developer, I would like to get something started, here's a place to start. So you don't have to make all those decisions about, well, where do I put my logic, where do I put these things, because it's just going to be done there. Now I know that that's an opinionated thing anyway. For example, what do people call their project that is alongside their website? Do you even have an Umbraco website in your solution that you end up committing? So it's because it's opinionated. I think we're just at the moment we've been playing around with I say we, Kevin mainly, and Jesper, been playing around with what can be done and just doing some proof of concepts about how it can work. And now it's like, okay, so let's see what we should be doing. An early iteration involved PowerShell, but that's gone, I think, luckily, because no one wants to do that.
I was going to say, yeah, you say it's kind of a tool for just making everything a bit easier, and Matt's concluded that yes, it's a real game changer for him and all of his wonderful packages that he makes, and also some praise from Arik saying it's a really well documented tool. So, you know,
I should say that Matt is the first person to do a pull request on the Unpack repository outside of the package team to help us get over that finish line to sort out archiving and things. So thank you, Matt. High five, you rock, I think is what I meant to say.
Very good. Cool. So that was a pretty nice release for this week, and we're going to talk a bit about some other releases coming up. But something that we were all part of this week was the Umbraco, what's it called? Umbraco MVP Connect event. So this is a new event format that HQ are trying to introduce, just to open more avenues of communication. And as far as I know, this was the same as the news delivered was the same as the news delivered to gold partners.
Yeah, that's what they said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a gold partner, but I did hear some people saying, oh, done this twice now.
Yeah, I think the slide deck was pretty similar. There was some chats about what the MVP program is going to be as well, and how they're going to, well, how they want to really open stuff up to more people. There was a really decent number of people though.
Yeah, I think I noticed. I think maybe late 40s, which, considering I think the total number would have been 60. Yeah,
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a good chat around Uno as well, wasn't there? And they were trying to let people know that they miscommunicated it or didn't say enough or give enough warning about it. You know, it's not supposed to be taking over Umbraco world or anything like that. It's just a good entry point for people that probably wouldn't have even come across Umbraco. I think that's the main idea.
There was certainly, I know going into this, there was quite a lot of doubts about Uno, and I think there probably still are. There's still questions. HQ admitted pretty much right at the start that they could have done better with communicating it, and I think we can agree. But there was a lot of clarification given as part of the event too. So discussing exactly what Uno is for. For me, as I said last week, Neil's showing Uno and saying, "Oh, this might be helpful for rapid prototyping, not necessarily as building a site for people like us." Actually, that was a kind of penny drop moment for me, where I went, "Okay, maybe I do have a use for a tool like Uno."
Yeah,
it was quite interesting hearing their ideas about where it could go or where it will go.
And just understanding that if you were then as an agency going to hear from someone, we've got an Uno site, you need to know what that means and what they will have seen and what they won't have seen. And they will have seen a very generic solution, whereas we, obviously, agencies would be building far more bespoke situations to make content editors' lives easier rather than giving them all the tools and all the things. So it's kind of working out how you negotiate that expectation difference, perhaps, in what people would be offering. But I still haven't looked at it, to be honest. No,
me neither. But as people that build sites, this was discussed, we kind of all have a specific way of doing things, and that's the flexible bit of Umbraco is the really valuable bit, where we can create the bespoke solution for a client. But Uno kind of is another way of doing that. And will we want to, take on an Uno site? I don't think that's going to be something that really happens as developers. Are we just going to be given an Uno site and it's a rebuild, or is it going to be this framework we can actually build upon?
Yeah, I tried asking about that, but I think because there were so many questions in the chat that it seemed to get missed or skipped over. But you could support a customer who has an Uno site, and you could support them from an editor's point of view. So you could still, be there for support. So it's good to know how those sites are built, and so you can, when they have that sort of question, you can be like, oh yeah, you just go here and do that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's very, very true. It's very true. I think it's early days. They admitted as part of this this presentation that they're rapidly working on it and rapidly improving it. And there was also a clear distinction that I guess Igloo is the foundation that they're working off, and not they're not just taking another product and rebranding it and selling it. So I think they're open to some feedback, and as we can get our hands on it and play with it, I think they're pretty keen to hear how we think it could be improved. I said, for example, the editor experience maybe could be better. If it's the gold standard of Umbraco project, we want to make sure that it really is the gold standard for users, give them the best Umbraco experience. Should we look at some announcements then this week, some releases and stuff? We had a product update last Friday, and I noticed that they've started doing product updates on a Friday rather than a Tuesday or Wednesday that they were before, and they always do them after umbraCoffee, which is annoying.
Yeah. Do you think that's intentional, Callum, or do you just think it's coincidence?
Definitely there to annoy me. But yeah, they're kind of announced at like, you know, I think 12 o'clock after umbraCoffee. So the product update is from last week, but it's all still relevant. And we've kind of discussed a lot of this stuff. Umbraco Uno was released, and there's a big focus on that. They are working on improving widgets and the user experience of the product, which is cool. Deploy on premises coming. It's been pushed slightly. A few things because of Corona have been moved around, but that's coming. And Umbraco 8.7 is kind of nearing readiness. Neil said last week that they've had a feature freeze already. So hopefully we'll see this in the not too distant future. I mean, in Q3, which we're in now, because it's June. It's July, isn't it? Jesus. Yeah, but this is coming with the block editor and all of those fantastic stuff. GraphQL, Forms, Preview API, whole bunch of stuff announced. Have any of you played with the block editor yet, or had a look at 8?
I've not played with it. I'm hoping it's like doctype grid editor, because I really like that. I've got my own way of working with doctype grid editor, in that I have like a full width column, and then I just let people pick the block for that column type. And then I use the preview to render a nice preview for it. And I really like how that works. So I'm hoping that the block editor is similar, but I hear that the preview might not be coming straight with it.
Yeah, so I heard that the preview is also kind of subject to change. The previews right now, as you say, it's row-based editors. The block list that's coming with 8.7 is row-based editors, and you can choose an element type that you can drop in. So unlike doctype grid editor, where you could use columns, there's no columns. It's a closer replacement of stacked content, I guess.
That's where I'm going with.
You can have previews, and I think they're static HTML or Angular at the minute, but later they could be C# renders Razor renders of your partial.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to 8.7 because I have a project that I really want to use that block editor on. So yeah.
Yeah, I suppose we should get on to the release candidate then and try and give some feedback.
Well, yeah, the release candidate, as kind of was hinted last week, I think is coming relatively soon, like probably within a month or so. So it would be great to play with that. And I know there's been a decent amount of effort to kind of get the block editor solid and ready. They've poured a lot into that in the past week or so. Interestingly, Soren just said in the chat that he tried last night to make a grid replacement, and yeah, kind of some challenges. But I guess this is all feedback that HQ want to hear. There was an attempt previously to create a grid based on the block editor proposal, just as an experiment to make sure that it was going to work. So I think it's been considered. Anyway, exciting times ahead, I think. We had some releases. Lotte, you already mentioned this, spoiler. Vendor 1.2.6, some nice patches, a couple of little breaking changes, but nothing too major. So yeah, that's solid. Just missed out on the Unpack release, but next time, there's always next time. We had Nathan doing his Friday night scheduled plumber fixes. This is version 1.3.5. Version 1.3 has had a load of licensing changes. So if you're using plumber, this is your chance to kind of, well, I think the licensing works a lot better. So you may need to do a couple things to get it working, but it should work better going forward. We had, Examine X by SD Kits, and it's been revealed that that's actually Shannon. Surprise, surprise. Did anyone not work that out? From the name, it was pretty obvious, I think. But yeah, we've got a bug fix release for Examine X. This one was interesting. So this is a port of a popular V7 package, Tag Manager, over to V8 by the USUM team. They've yeah, they've got that working. That was released last Friday. Looks pretty good. Tim Geisens has been really busy with updates to UImatic, and I believe a lot of these changes have been coming from the community. These have been people doing pull requests, which is really awesome to see. And every week, Matt seems to be teasing more and more about fluidity. So he's got this big thread now on Twitter of all the stuff he's been working on, and he's got infinite editors now working with his new child collections feature, which is like a list view, I think, of children, which looks really cool. And then some further demos of creating and editing items through Fluidity. I've honestly never had an opportunity to use Fluidity.
I love it.
You do?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's always the problem in V7 was the lack of the child collections, which Matt said there just wasn't the user interface in the back office that he could use to do it. And so now with infinite editing, it's sort of all guns blazing on that for the V8 version, I believe.
Yeah, I
it's a
think,
real time saver. You just generate your models, Poco models.
Yeah.
And if you're using the standard one, then then it's some Fluent config, and then you've got a whole new section in your back office with all the CRUD done. Jobs are good.
I think we found a way around doing the child collections. I think using a view and getting the IDs of the children somehow in a comma separator list or something like that, from what I remember. Yeah, I think I did a pull request to it as well, and when I was really getting into using Fluidity for a client, even got a day of consulting out of it as well. So yeah, it was quite good, and it was award-winning as well. Don't forget,
of course,
package of the year, wasn't it?
Award-winning. I guess Matt seems to be reinventing a lot of stuff for the V8 version, and I know it's definitely early days at the stage, but it would be great to see more of the plans and see it running on V8. I need to have an opportunity to play with it, and I don't really want to be using V7 anymore. So this can't come soon enough.
It's quite interesting. I know Lars Erik has used it for entity framework models. And we do a fair bit of entity framework, and I've always tried to get them to play nicely, but it was always a bit of a hard work in 7. So I need to find. Apparently, it's on. I'm really sorry if you can hear my stomach rumble, by the way. Apparently, there's a gist somewhere on Lars Erik's repositories. I need to go and find it. But how he added a EF repository into Fluidity, because you can extend it.
That's cool. If I can find the link for that, I'll put it in the description below. That seems. I mean,
I think this will be V7, right? But it's still kind of proof of concept.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I remember now when I was looking into Fluidity, I managed to look through the Umbraco source code and get the model definitions for all of the Umbraco tables. And then I did it so that you could actually use Fluidity to look in the tables, all the Umbraco tables.
The core tables.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. So you could highlight
incredibly dangerous.
the log table or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. Cool. Well, now I have something I can go and play with, but maybe I'll wait till it's ready for V8. No pressure, Matt. Let's move on to a couple of announcements regarding meetups. Yesterday there was the Umbraco Leeds virtual meetup. Did either of you get a chance to attend?
Not that one.
No, I actually missed that one.
I didn't either, and it was on security. So Ali Graham did a talk on security, which is an incredibly valuable topic. Unfortunately, I was a bit busy, so another time. But that was Leeds yesterday. Lotte, next week we have our first ever virtual open space London.
We do, but just before that, I popped into Bristol on Tuesday.
Bristol.
There was an Bristol, and it had an excellent quiz by new MVP Carl Tynan. I missed the quiz because I was actually at my ukulele lesson, but I popped over to Bristol after ukulele was finished, and I then had to do the quiz on my own in front of everyone. I don't actually know who won, but it was very good.
I completely forgot that meetup happened, but I think, was it maybe Dan Bramall that won the quiz? I think I saw something in the Slack channel. Anyway, it looked like a great event. They had demos of Vendor, some chat about block editors and
some contentment,
and all the stuff that's been worked on recently. There was another thing. What was it? Well, there was a quiz, one of Carl's famous quizzes.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done, Bristol people.
But sorry, back to London. Yes.
London. This coming week we have
coming Thursday
our first ever virtual open space meetup. What's the deal? What's all this about?
Well, we've done open space meetups in person, and they've always generated a lot of good conversation. And one thing we always do, however, is wait until the day itself, till the event starts, before we ask people what they want to talk about. And that takes up quite a lot of the time of the evening when we don't have a huge amount of time. So this time we're asking people to tell us in advance what they'd like to talk about. We have a Trello board. Sorry, I laugh because everyone associates me with Trello, but we have a Trello board, and we'd like people, if they're going to be attending, to suggest what they'd like to talk about, or when they see something already suggested, to put their name on it, so that we can basically see what the most popular ones are, and then we can set the schedule. Because hopefully, if we've got enough people and enough conversations that want to happen, we can have a couple concurrently and use Zoom breakout rooms. So actually, we could have a smaller, multiple small focus conversations, rather than the one big one with 25 people, which ends up being 6 people talking and 20 people listening. It would be much better to split people off into as many rooms as we need in order to get all the conversations happening that people want to talk about. So you need to sign up, and when you sign up, I'll send you the invite to the Trello board.
Very good. You are
it's not in the public.
Trello guardian, the goddess of Trello. You'll be reaping all the benefits from the Trello Gold subscriptions.
I do have a few free months of Trello Gold because I make people sign up to it if they want to be involved in events that I help organise. Yes.
Amazing. So this is on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. UK time. I saw Janelle posted. Oh, this is fantastic. She's obviously West Coast US, but she can join this because it's a time that works well for her. So this is not just for London people or even UK people. This is open to everyone.
Open to anyone who the idea of spending a couple of hours having proper conversations with other Umbracans, anyone that appeals to is more than welcome.
And I guess topics don't have to be necessarily Umbraco. So if someone wants to talk about, latest front end framework and how that works with Umbraco, you're
sure.
More than welcome to put the idea on the board.
I mean, if everybody really wants to talk about something completely random, then who are we to deny them this opportunity? Get it suggested on the Trello board, and we'll see how many people.
Ravi wanted to talk about sharks or something, didn't
he? He did post something to do with sharks. Yes.
Okay. Well. There's also in 2 weeks' time, Thursday 2 weeks' time, there's a meetup happening in Manchester where Luke Fribbins from Cold Banana Studios is going to be talking about campaign builder and working within Umbraco in a content app, which sounds like quite a cool topic. First Umbraco Manchester meetup in a little while, and it's virtual, so again, people can join from wherever they are based. Now, I started the episode today saying that we had a YouTube celebrity in our presence. I mean, I think maybe that's a little bit of a push, but Paul, big congratulations, because you hit 4,000 YouTube subscribers this week.
Yeah, and I managed to spot it when I was actually on 4,000 as well. So I check every other day, just
none of that little like inspector magic to just bump the number down or anything.
No, I was in the queue in IKEA waiting to get some hot dogs, and I just went on my stats and I was like, yay! So,
fantastic.
Yeah, quickly. Yeah, got that screenshot.
So all of the hard work you've put into both your website and your YouTube channel, some really, really good tutorials. We've spoken recently about your vendor tutorials, which are long and incredibly detailed. So there's certainly a lot of effort that's gone into getting to this point. So massive congratulations.
Cheers. I found that like I can do them if I do them live. Well, not live recorded. Like I started off, I tried to record them, and then I would have to start again and edit it out and just take ages. But if I just do it as if I'm talking to someone in person, and I can get through it, I can get through the whole video without having to edit much, and I don't go back to the start and things like that. And then I just edit out the odd, the odd waiting for the machine or something like that.
It's okay when stuff goes a little bit wrong, because that's natural. And actually, that going wrong for you might also happen to someone else, and they watch you resolve it. So
that's my USP, I think. I include all the mistakes that I make.
Fantastic. And actually, I was going to highlight a couple of tweets that replied to you, because it just proves the impact that your YouTube channel and your blog have had on the community. People saying it really helped them with getting their first Umbraco site up and running, or the people saying it's a fantastic resource. And something that I didn't know until recently, but am I right that you have a Umbraco Facebook community?
Yeah, I set it up ages ago. I think I set it up because when I was starting out my blog and I wanted to just like share my posts, I had the idea that you share it in more places and then you'll just get loads of views. I was addicted to Google Analytics, like saying, I've had 10 views on this post today, and then so I created it then, just like if anyone was on Facebook looking for Umbraco, we could share things in this Umbraco web developers group, and it sort of like was just sitting there quiet and for maybe a year or something, and then someone noticed it and they started to join, and now I think I don't know how many members we've got, but it might be over 500.
So I think it's more than that, isn't it? When I checked it was certainly more than that. It's closer to 1,000, I think. But
wow.
I will say I don't have the link. I will make sure the link's in the description. I'm not a Facebook user, so I personally don't. But I did check the page recently, and I was incredibly surprised to see a whole bunch of names I didn't recognize, people who are actively asking for help, and you and Nick and a few other people in the community being amazingly helpful on there. And it's incredible that this whole other community I didn't know about exists. And as you say, you probably get a lot of views on your videos from those people there. And then just to kind of exemplify this even more, I find it incredibly fascinating that people now come to you directly with Umbraco questions rather than necessarily posting on the forum. I've seen on Twitter recently someone going, I'm trying to get started with Umbraco, Paul, any idea what I can do? And that's a huge achievement.
It's just been posted in the chat, 763.
Very good. That's impressive.
I think, Niels Hartvig tries to remind us that some of us perhaps live in a bit of a bubble. We think who we know and who we see on Slack and who we follow on Twitter is the core lot of Umbraco developers. So hearing that there's a whole bunch of people that you're unaware of, Callum, on the Facebook channel just reminds us that there are, who are we to think that we represent everyone?
My Umbraco community is centered around Twitter and Slack largely. But I know that you've got a particularly large group of users from, say, India on your Facebook page. And in India, Facebook is the dominant social network. And I think in the UK, it's kind of slowly, it's definitely disappearing a bit. At least in my.
I would suggest that if your boss sees you hanging out on Facebook during the day, you're probably not working. Whereas if you're on Slack, albeit the community Slack, having a nice chat with someone about cups of tea, it still could be that you're working. So I think, there is very much from me that sort of, I'm not really a Facebook user either, but Slack is work. And if that's getting help with work, then that makes sense. But Facebook for work related things just feels a bit odd. But if that's
I know that in Poland as well, they don't use any social networks other than kind of Facebook and LinkedIn, and for me that's really alien. But you've tapped into that community, and you're basically giving them the help mechanism that we have elsewhere. So that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I
it's just
think
running itself now. It's just like myself and Nick are the admins on it, and we let people in, or we stop some of the bots or some of the like ones that are in a million groups, and just basically going to advertise their services. But it is a community now, and people are asking questions and answering them, and just helping each other. So yeah, it's not really
Well,
about me sharing my posts anymore.
yeah, well done. That's great. And
Yeah,
I'll make
cheers.
sure, as I said, make sure there's a link posted below, and maybe a call to action to anyone that is a Facebook user and would normally have helped out on Slack or Twitter or the forums. Go check it out. Maybe there's someone you can help out on the Facebook group too. Another way of
one thing I want to pick you up on, Callum. I think you were suggesting that Paul wasn't really quite a celebrity on YouTube, but I know that when Emma Burstow first met Paul in real life, she posted a photo, and her son reacted, "Oh, it's the bloke off YouTube," which I think means that you are a YouTube celebrity, Paul.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
don't listen to Callum.
I mean that in the sense that you're not.
Stop. It's fine. I just wanted to tell that story because it makes me
No,
happy.
I'm not a celebrity.
It's very impressive. So well done. Let's finish up with some last bits of news. Oh, so Scrift, they're looking for authors for the next couple of months. So August and beyond, if you have an article you'd like to write, contribute. But I think the important thing here is they'd love to get some new faces, people that aren't the kind of regular authors. They shared their little stats of the other day of how many blogs or how many articles people have written, and there's some people who've done 6 or 7. It'd be great to see some new faces in there rather than the same old people. But if you know someone that might be good, maybe give them a nudge in the right direction to write an article. The other thing I noticed this week was Nick posted, can we help Sophie out with updating the anti-patterns and common pitfalls documentation, because this is very V7 centric now. There's lots of talk about using kind of application context or using whether or not the descendants or XPath querying is still relevant. I know Paul at Spark, you did a talk about almost exactly this. So there's definitely some knowledge in the community now that can be fed back into this document. And I know Marcin said this is his favorite piece of documentation to read and reference, because there's stuff in there that I'm sure all of us do. We probably shouldn't.
It's also the one that's written most like a article to read rather than a his X, his Y, and things like that. And so it's one that you do want to read properly, whereas usually it's just, what is the alias for the members section when you're trying to create a custom dashboard? Myself and one other person this week has not realized that the word is member, not members plural. And if you get it wrong, then why isn't my custom dashboard appearing? So I added it as an example to the documentation for other people like me. Why would it be singular? Anyway, I'm gonna let it go now.
Yeah. A couple of other blogs from this week. This one is from Nick Fredrickson, who has done a post about how he makes Umbraco headless sites. So this is not using Hardcore, and it's not using anything like Headrest that Matt created. Another point for Matt there. But this is just how he has approached building headless sites with his own controllers and that sort of stuff. Really interesting read. It's nice to see some different approaches there. So go check that if you're interested. Link below. Paul, you had 2 articles in the past 2 days. You've been busy.
Yeah, I just solved a couple of problems in something I was doing recently, and so the guy who I was doing it for, Tarek from Creative Studio in Australia, he said that I could share it, and because I like to share things that I've learned, this one was just when you want to, say if you've got a member edit profile form and you want to edit the avatar, and it used to be that you would do it as a file upload and you would save it for that member with a file upload, but you can actually do it as a media item. And this code lets you, I've created a media upload service just so you can use it with dependency injection. But the idea is you create a media item and then you set the Umbraco file property of the media item as the file input stream that you're putting in. And I've seen bits and bobs of this, pointing you in this direction, but it wasn't that easy for me to find. So when I go through pain of things like that, of how do I do this, I think, oh, I've gone through pain, I'll try and simplify it for someone else coming down the line. So that's what this is.
Very good. I think the kind of the best articles, the best content comes from a problem that you've solved yourself. And I think a lot of yours comes from that. You said in many of your videos, this is, or and articles, this is just how you've approached it. There may be other ways.
Yeah,
and that's great. You had another one as well about data types and populating drop downs.
Yeah, people quite often ask this, and I found that if you stay there, the that method there about get items from value list data type, it works with if you did a checkbox list in the back office, or a drop down list or radio button list. This same one, if you just pass in the name of that property, that data type, it will return the values out for you in a select list item enumerable. So then you've got your text, your value, and your selected, whether they're selected or not. And if you pass in the array of values that are selected, then it will set them as true on there. And it's quite handy if you're going to use that on the front end of a form.
Certainly very handy. Nice one. Lotte, we had a blog post from you on the umbraco.com blog from last week. This is your code patch diary.
The Candid Contributions code patch diaries. Yes, it was just really a hopefully light-hearted read. I don't know if anyone is aware of the Secret Diaries of Adrian Mole, but that's kind of where it was inspired by. As a more fun way to be able to list out the names of all the people who helped us in the 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks that we put Code Patch together in, and say how people helped. So people such as you, Callum, who, when we said, I think Emma said, would you mind running Beta Garden, the package competition for us? And you went, yeah, leave it with me. Basically, honestly, I'm going to tell you no more, leave it with me. And that was just wonderful, because it meant that there was that hour and a half slot in the lineup that we just didn't have to worry about as well. And also we got to enjoy it as a surprise, so that was fun. But there were lots of other people who, I mean, to be honest, Ilham, the conversation we had with Ilham right at the beginning of, we were just checking in, is there any reason why we can't do a hackathon on this date? And Ilham was like, no, that's fine. Are you going to do some code garden things in it? And we're like, oh, that's an idea. And that's like, that's where kind of turning it into more of a code garden. I don't want to use a word replacement because it wasn't, but there were code garden aspects. Yeah, so it's just kind of a list of how it all came about. And Sophie from the docs team reached out and asked, she wanted to check that the timings of what we were planning wouldn't conflict because the docs team were doing a mini retreat. And it's like, oh, but maybe you could come to Code Patch and tell us about it. And then it was like, and let's get all the community teams to do that. And so that's how we ended up having the community catch-ups. It's because, the quick conversation with Sophie. And so it's just really an acknowledgement of how all these wonderful people in the community fed into, so
very nice.
That's what it's all about.
Cool. And just quickly, you had speaking of candid contributions, you had an episode this week on bias, which I've not had a chance to listen to yet, but in a short couple sentences, what's it all about?
Talking about some of the different types of bias, unconscious bias, stereotype, threat, various things that as humans we all have bias, and it's acknowledging your own, not saying necessarily they're bad things. Why do we have them? Which ones should we be worrying about? Perhaps the detrimental effects of bias when it feeds into data sets, and then the resulting outcomes that can be quite catastrophic. And then we talk about whether pull requests in blind mode might be interesting. So
very cool.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. I'm not. The other three know more about this topic intellectually. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. Anyway, they've read more around this topic than I have, so I very much enjoyed kind of being able to ask some questions and listen and learn.
An education for you as well as the audience.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Very good. Very good. I will give it a listen. That's amazing. Cool. And that's all the news I had. I have 3 things I have to apologize for. Firstly, Eric, I misread your comment, and I'm sorry. I'm not trying to spread fake news. I apologize. The second is, of course, I apologize to Paul for saying you are not a famous YouTuber. You are certainly famous. But we seem to have spoken quite a bit about vendor today. So if anyone's playing along with the vendor drinking game, apologies for that. And I've also been told by Imran that I have to apologise for Neil's congratulating Liverpool on their win last week. I don't know what any of that means. I don't know what football is, so I'm not going to go any further than that. But apparently, we are sorry. And that's all I had for today. Do you have anything you want to mention, plug?
Apart from the London meetup next Thursday, the second time.
It'd be good to see some new faces there. We've had a pretty decent group of people the past few events from all over the world, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, we have a couple of names signed up that are first timers. So here's hoping.
Yeah. Thursday, 6:30 p.m. UK time, whatever that translates to everywhere else.
Yeah, in a time zone near you or something.
Yeah. Amazing. Cool. And I think that's it. Thank you both for joining me. This has been a really good chat. We'll be back next week, of course, usual time, usual place. Marcin will be back. And yeah, have a lovely weekend, everyone.
You too. Under an hour, Callum. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.